Hi there, I'm Rebecca and a really warm welcome back to my channel PumpkinBecki. In this week's video we are going to be harvesting some onions from the square foot vegetable beds. Let's get started. So the whole point of square foot gardening is to make as much use of the space you have available to grow fruit and vegetables in. Each area of the plot is divided into square feet, or you can go metric. The correct spacing for onions is 4 sets per square foot. Now I have to keep my square foot beds netted all the time. For some crops that's a problem, particularly things like pumpkins and squashes. They need bumblebees to come and pollinate their flowers. Honeybees can get through this netting. I have seen honeybees in here. The main reason for the netting is to keep off things like pigeons, the chickens, who would just eat everything, and also cabbage white butterfly. They're my main issues here in the square foot beds. We have had an incredibly hot, dry summer here in the UK. We are not used to this kind of weather. Whilst the onions and other vegetables have really enjoyed it, they have suffered from lack of rain, and I have had to hand water the beds an awful lot. However, in the last week or so we have had a lot of rain, which is fantastic. We needed it. That means that I'm now at a slight disadvantage with the onions because the soil is wet. And ideally you would pull onions when the ground is nice and dry, and you would leave them lying on the soil surface to start to cure. And you'd do that for a couple of days before you bring them indoors and try and prepare them in any way. I'm not going to be able to do that because my soil is too damp. It may not look it, but it is. You can see it is holding together. Now this is a Mel's mix, so this is compost with a lot of vermiculite in it, and then not that far below the surface is a layer which is just sand, sharp sand. Things like parsnips grow straight down into it. They don't mind at all, and actually you get really clean parsnips and carrots coming out of that mixture because the sand just brushes straight off. And it's a remarkably clever mixture of soil because not only does it retain moisture, it also helps drainage. It's hard to understand how the two things are able to happen in the same place, but they are, and they do provide me with a really good growing medium. It's also incredibly easy to weed. They just come straight out. So how do we know when an onion is ready to harvest? Well, you're looking for a bent over top, just like this. It has naturally done that. It has broken its own growing cycle by bending the top over. It is as big as it's going to get, and now it wants to start curing. The best thing to do is lift it. Now with a Mel's mix, you can easily get your hands in underneath and lift. And what you want to do is try and preserve as much of the root as you possibly can, and we're also going to leave the top on as well. That's a really nice little onion. So I've just crumpled away the soil to try and clean the roots up a little bit, and there we go. This one is now ready to think about storing. It's a really nice onion. It's firm. It is a bit damp, but that's because of the amount of moisture in the soil, so we are going to have to leave it to dry. If you're not growing in the sort of soil that you can just get your hands in underneath, then it is really important that you use either a fork or a spade to get underneath the roots and lift. You want to leave that root plate completely intact. You also never pull an onion by the top. You want that to dry off properly right down to the neck so that it has the best possible chance of curing, and the better it cures, the better it's going to last in storage. This onion is absolutely perfect for storing. It has bent over its top naturally. If it was still bolt upright, it's not ready. But if you wanted it to be ready at the same time as your other onions that perhaps have already gone over, you can manually bend the top and leave it for a couple of weeks That will stop the active growing process and the onions will start to prepare themselves for curing. And so here is the produce from just 6 squares in our square foot bed garden. I'm going to leave these onions here for a couple of days, that way they can start their drying process naturally. If it looks like rain, I will have to bring them into the greenhouse and put them on some racking so they get lots of airflow. But fingers crossed, for a couple of days they're going to stay here. I will then be able to start brushing off the soil that's left on the surface and begin the rest of the curing process. What I think the best thing to do is to actually bring that side of it to you in another video, so keep your eyes peeled, unintended, for that one. So the Great British weather has changed all my plans. Almost as soon as I'd stopped filming, this low cloud came in. We are quite high up on the North Downs in Kent, and we get this cloud that comes in and it's almost like a fog, but you're just right in the cloud, and what it does is it just makes everything damp. It's like it's drizzling, but there's nowhere for it to drizzle from because you are in the cloud. So I've now moved into the greenhouse and I've popped 2 canes across between 2 sets of shelves that I have, and I have put on top some old wire shelving that I had from one of those old sort of plasticky greenhousey things, affectionately known as blowaways because they tend to in the first gust of wind. It looks a little bit bouncy, but I think it will be okay for what I need. So here are the onions that I've harvested so far, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them and place them through the racking so that they are able to drain any excess moisture out from the neck, and this should help them to dry. So I'm just passing the leaves down through the gaps and letting the bulb of the onion just suspend. That's going to work perfectly. Now what I'm going to do is go through the rest of the onions and pop them in exactly the same way, but remembering to leave an air gap between each bulb head so that there's airflow, and that's going to help cut down the risk of mildew, infection, other sorts of bacteria, making them rot sooner than they should do. What we want is for these to store for as long as possible. You can see here I've left lots of space between bulbs. Right, that really is it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to rate, share and subscribe to me here on YouTube, and until next time, bye!